Welcome, everyone, to episode 2 of Real Show. I, of course, am Freddy Fame alongside me, Hobo Hank, and we're breaking down the first episode of Duke City Championship Wrestling 26. Joe, welcome to the program. How are you, brother?
I'm good, my friend. How about yourself?
Doing well. Had to mute my background, so we're good to go. You and I were going to fly by the first one today, and obviously thank you to everyone who's joining us in the live chat on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Thank you for being a part of it. It's already going well to start, so we're super excited. All right, Joe, the first event, we talked about it a little bit in the Sizzle Reel episode, which was episode 1 of Real Show. How did you feel the first event went down as a whole, and how did you feel watching it on Comcast Channel 26 this past weekend, airing every single Saturday at noon?
Fred, I couldn't feel better about the whole event. And as the days go by and I get more and more feedback from our fans and from the participants in the show, I'm feeling better by the day. So,
Yeah.
really super excited about it. And I thought it was really cool that we were able to air the broadcast in its entirety the first time. This one wasn't chopped up. It's not segments. It's the whole show. And so anybody who missed that first event, they're able to go back and relive it from beginning to end and see what they missed out on.
Well, and our first show was 2 Thursdays ago at the time of this recording, and it was June the 25th. We're currently 8 days away from our press conference, which we're very excited about announcements to come on when and where that is. But obviously, it'll be available at DukeCityChampionshipWrestling.com/TV. We will put it out. To me, Joe, there's been a reaction around town that I wasn't prepared for. I was talking to you just the other day, but I feel as if it's restaurants I've been to, or the other day I was at the Makers Market, and I didn't ask for permission on names, so I won't use them. But a fan or a friend of Duke City Championship Wrestling came, approached me at the Makers Market and told me they were working behind the scenes and created like scented candles for Hobo Hank's armpits. And I was like, there is a fandom and a little bit of a ludicrousity to this that I just don't think I was necessarily prepared for, as we're only now a handful of days past the release of episode 1 and only 2 weeks removed from our first event.
Yeah, wrestling fans, they're known for their support, and when they find something that they like, they latch onto it big time, and they're there to wear the brand and to support it. And I have similar stories, Fred. And since we last talked here on the last episode of the Real Show, I've been contacted for more media appearances. I was just on the ESPN Mike Adams 2.0 show on Saturday, and it just keeps coming. More and more messages in my inbox, and it's been really cool to hear the buzz around this one event. I mean, we just started. This is amazing.
A lot of advancements to the website, DukeCityChampionshipWrestling.com. You can go in there. You can see we have some rosters up for our wrestlers. Obviously, we're working on a little bit of explanations of everyone who's making it go around. Lots of video on the website, merchandise links going up, ticket links will be there at the time we can release that, which will be June 13th at our press conference. You ready to relive the night?
Oh, absolutely. Let's do it.
Cool. So the thing I'm most excited about this, and we're going to jump back and forth a little bit here, is just the production early. So this is the very opening of our show. This is the graphics that are entailed with it. I thought the top tier approach from ProView Networks on creating just like a crisp product, I think in the immediate moments created like an inviting energy for the audience.
Absolutely. I love the feel of the show. I love the look of the show. Um, Producing a live event is not easy by itself. And then when you add the element of television to it and try to figure out how to translate that to a audience, there's a lot that goes into it. And I was really, really impressed with the overall product.
Yeah, and obviously I'm doing a little bit of voiceover here. It's myself and then Chris Burnett, the mayor of downtown, or acting commissioner of Duke City Championship Wrestling, and we're trying to set the plate here, right, Joe? So the idea is obviously I'm talking to a wrestling fan. Wrestling fan is intelligent about the product of wrestling. But what are we trying to do? We're trying to prepare a broadcast that's good for grandparents. If you're showing this to someone maybe for the first time, which by the way, if you did, thank you so very much. We're hopefully creating a product that is going to be communicatable to so many others. So that was the thing I was proud of. I'll fast forward here a little bit to We obviously started with the national anthem. We have a whole story, you and I, behind hanging this flag up the 40 feet in the air above the ring. Let's go a little bit into that. There was a little Three Stooges to me and you and some of the boys trying to get this flag put up above the ring.
There was, again, I don't think people really truly appreciate what all goes into a live event. You buy your ticket, you grab a seat, and you kind of enjoy what's out there. But every little thing takes preparation and time. And I had such a vision for the opening of our show for weeks, leading up to it, and that was really, it centered around that flag. And so, yeah, Fred and I had to come up with a creative way to get that up there. The El Rey is a cavernous facility. It's huge.
Yeah.
The ceilings are easily 25, 30 feet high. So yeah, we were able to use their projector screen. I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, we're excited to incorporate that a little bit further into the future. This is a cool moment for me here, Joe. You and I talked a lot throughout the course of our friendship and development of this company that, we're both obviously in the ownership group of. And then, let's talk a little bit about here. This is a cool match card, right?
Yeah, again, we touched on this last week too. I could not have asked for a better opening match. I mean, Jerry Vendetta and Enrique Delgato. Boy, just two characters that are so easy to read. You hate Jerry immediately, you love Gato immediately. They got off to just a perfect match to kind of set the tone for the rest of the night.
Speaking of the tone, it was set by Adam Merrick here, who was received well by the crowd as he returned in front of them with a microphone in front of professional wrestling here in Albuquerque. And you can kind of see them come to life. And real good job here by Pro V Networks getting some tight grabs of the audience. Obviously, I think we had over 300 people in the venue, which was kind of incredible. I know we do have aspiration to take a camera to the top second tier of general admission and making sure we're getting energy of everyone. But yeah, just super impressed with the start of the show. And then, the introduction of our officials here. And the crowd was warm, my man. The crowd was ready to go from bell one, match one.
Oh, you bet. Watching people kind of peeking through the curtain, watching them walk into the venue and just absorb it all. Obviously, they were taken aback by the visual of the entire presentation, the guardrails, the mats on the floor, the banners, the lighting, all of that was top notch. And so, but still, they had no idea what they were going to see, what competitors they were going to see. And, when I saw both Adam Merrick make his way to the ring and then Kyle, that just kind of reassured some of our longtime Albuquerque fans that they're in good hands. Like, this is going to be a quality product because those two gentlemen, they're synonymous with wrestling here.
The end of match one, I wanted to point out because I think you and I talked a little about this. Gato gets the win and then immediately runs to the back curtain, and you got to get your flowers a little bit, right? Like, to my understanding, that's his debut here in Albuquerque.
Yeah, he hasn't wrestled here much at all, and he gets the first win in DCCW, which is cool. I'm glad he makes his way back to get his accolades. I think he just wanted to get out of the way there because he kind of shocked Jerry with the win. So I'd get out of there too if I was his size.
Yeah, too much fun was that for he. But yeah, he after escaping and the ring clearing, he comes back out and is able to have a little bit of life. So that was a lot of fun for him. So he was part of it. Obviously, ProView goes to commercial here because we're not just airing on the commercial, or excuse me, on YouTube. This is a live broadcast over the entire state of New Mexico. And there are broadcast rules, including commercial breaks. So we have them. So here we are, fast forwarding a little bit more throughout the night. That was a replay of the first match. And now we are here into the second of the evening, and a crowd, like, the real time this is just moments later. And obviously in the broadcast, there's a commercial break, but the crowd maintained like that energy from match one into match two.
Yes. And this is a match I was excited. I mean, really, I was excited about all the matches, but to see Happy the Clown and Fonzie in the ring, I felt great about that. I knew that those guys would put on a entertaining show. Happy's always a huge crowd favorite. And Fonzie's no stranger to the game. He knows what he's doing. So I thought they put on a great show for everybody. And there too, we've got Jeff the ref. So, Jeff was one of my referees back in LAW when I was running a promotion in 2006, 2007. So it was really cool to have him back.
Yeah, this is one I wasn't ready for per se fan wise. You and I had obviously talked a lot about the talent that we're bringing in the ring. We were talking a lot about the guys who are going to entertain. But real moment of honesty, you were kind of the only guy I'd seen go in the squared circle here in Albuquerque, and I didn't understand the fandom that I thought really only kind of followed you, follows so many guys around, and their supporter sections had come out. I was just insanely impressed with the fellowship.
Yeah, I mean, I'm far from the only wrestler here in the Duke City, you know, and that's why
Yeah.
that's why we chose the name we did, Duke City Championship Wrestling. We want to highlight, you know, the best that Albuquerque has to offer, and um, you know, there's a lot of talent here, and we're going to showcase it as the months go on.
The thing I enjoyed about our live broadcast is we're able to create like some replays, and we're able to put a different level of production into that broadcast. And here it is, you know, where it's a screen and screen, and obviously we got some branding up. And this is a little inside baseball. That stuff has so much value. You know, this isn't just us on some handheld devices and then cutting everything together at the end. This is produced live on the spot and then cleaned up a little bit in the post just to make sure, you know, it can go out over FCC regulated airwaves. But just an incredible job broadcast wise. And as some of these industry tricks are coming in, that's when everyone, because you know I've been in radio for 20 years, that's when everyone starts reaching out to me, and they're talking to me about like how impressed they are with the product. And I was like, well, I knew the in-ring would be good, but I'm very happy with the production behind it as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Fred, I have all the faith in you that a person can have, and we've talked about this over the last few years. And even I was shocked at the just the production. You know, right the first
Yeah.
episode. Um, you know, was it flawless? No, and there's things that I learned from having watched it back that I can do different from a booking perspective. But you know, I've been a part of literally dozens of wrestling companies over the years. I don't know that I've seen a better production.
Interesting finish to match too. There's a good athleticism showcase here. There's a strong amount of comedy in this one. The crowd was in it in a lot of different ways, and to me, obviously, Fonzie, who's got a cool energy on his own. To me, anyways, it was hey, keep them guessing here throughout. You know, it's not always going to be your hero. It's not always going to be the victor that you yearn for, and you're going to end up with you know, a little bit of a different finish throughout the night. So make sure you stay tuned in, and I think that translated to the broadcast. I don't necessarily think people were walking away midway through. I do think people were staying out through the entirety of matches, and that's the thing I think I'm proud of. If we can keep people hooked, Joe, for the way you designed it out, you know, 8, 10, 12 minutes at a time, it's difficult to be entertaining for that long.
Yeah, it absolutely can be. You know, and I think again last week we kind of touched on the fact that a lot of the entertainment that you're seeing, it was all designed for a live show. You know, there's things that you do in front of a crowd that gets the crowd riled up that doesn't always necessarily translate through broadcast television. But I think the wrestlers did a great job of making it work for both. And then, you know, again, my hats off to you and to Chris Burnett. You guys did a great job on commentary, telling the story that was happening inside the room. If I hadn't been there, I would have felt like that I had, and I wouldn't want to miss out on the next.
Well, and Chris Burnett makes his way into the ring here, but you know, that A shot on me where I'm single framed right there, that was kind of an interesting one to put together because, and again, this is our first time in the historic El Rey, right? This is our first time creating a live product, and so there's obviously a camera in front of me, but there's a light, right? And what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to white out everyone behind me with a blinding light, so there's like a weird balance of how do I stay lit? How do I not look like I'm telling ghost stories? And that's the product we came away with. But in the future, we might make a couple little tweaks there. But that was a special moment for me, you know, Joe. Like, obviously, we're in the ownership group, but to be able to be, you know, like sole camera one during like a pro wrestling product that we created, I was just a ravished with emotion. And then, you know, our mutual friend Chris Burnett, acting commissioner of Duke City Championship Wrestling, he enters the ring here and he's thinking the city. And this to me is just a pivotal part that you created on how we're going to have storytelling all night long. You know, it's not going to be segmented. It's going to be, you're invested till the very end.
Right, and I'm glad it all came through. You know, the putting together the first show was a challenge for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, I had a lot of guys in mind that I definitely wanted to bring on for this show, both for their talent and their attitudes, and I wanted to showcase them. But then, the task at hand became, how do how do I start a story from nothing? There's nothing to work with. We have to go from ground zero. Um, and then, we're going to have fans in the building that have probably seen some of us wrestle before. We're going to have fans in the building that have never seen any of us wrestle before. So how do I kind of blend everything together and make it all make sense? And so, that's a lot of the reason why, why Fonzie got the win in the match too. Setting the tone, kind of bringing the crowd down, taking them off just a little bit to set up for this promo. This promo here is Charlie 50. We got Veronica Vega, so we're introducing the fact that they're an alliance and they're a team. We've also got El Diablo Blanco, which is Charlie's tag team partner. So we're establishing the fact that we've got a little faction here. And then Charlie's, in addition to riling up the crowd and just making sure that they're solely on my side when that time comes, he's giving a little backstory. He's explaining why it is that he chose to finally come to Albuquerque to face me. And we bring in a name from the past. So, Matthew Robles. And my guess is you may hear that name again in the future.
Yeah, and a lot of the feedback I got was just on how good of a position Charlie 50 put this thing in. My thing was on how he came in to to our territory, to our event, and he was able to disrupt the entirety of the thing. But you and I both know how this thing works. There's a lot of people that could have been in this position, and to pick Joe and to make sure that he would be that fit, because he doesn't have that many years in the game. He's relatively blue-blooded, or excuse me, he's relatively new to this sport. I thought it was perfect. Like, I know that's like a really extreme word, but I don't know if we could have found anyone better to juxtaposition you on this night.
Yeah, I would agree. I've worked with Charlie before in Texas on a few events. We've wrestled. Um, I was thinking back. We may have had one singles match against one another at some point,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely a few tag team encounters. And again, he's great at what he does. He's been in the game for a while, and he's just yeah. I mean, he's good at everything. He's very well rounded, and he reads quickly. I mean, I think you see him immediately, you get it. You get what he's about, and you get that you just don't like the guy. So hats off to him. And then Veronica Vega, man, that if anybody was an MVP later on in the night, I would
Yeah.
have to say her. She was fantastic at everything she did. The crowd ate up everything that she was involved in.
What's interesting here is Chris Burnett in the ring with him, and Chris, who's incredibly green, to the world of pro wrestling. He's obviously had fandom forever in a world of talent in other places. But there's a moment here where he's in the corner and Charlie 50 is working the crowd, and then I'm not going to say he falls into fandom, but I'm going to say you can tell when he snaps back into like the commissioner role, right? So now he's words of encouragement when the boos are coming or the jeers or whatever. But there's a moment early on as I'm watching this broadcast, because I'm only listening at this point at the broadcast table, where I just see Chris like enjoying the quote unquote heel promo. And I'm going, it's almost like, Chris, like, you need to be appalled. You need to be upset here. And it was just kind of a fun learning one to see, one of our boys, fulfilling a childhood dream. And that's, being involved in a pro wrestling promotion. So cool moment. Super vital to the night. Super important. Move on a little bit here. Obviously we're in a match. Is this match 4 on the night? I might be 3. I don't have my notes in front of me, so I apologize.
This is match 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're in match 3 on the night, and this one, I tell you what, this is a classic David versus Goliath. This is every 13-year-old kid in attendance has a new favorite pro wrestler after the end of this one.
Agreed. Yeah. So we have Chuy Martinez, the larger of the two competitors from Amarillo, Texas, versus Sean Lau, and this was my opportunity to do just that, the David versus Goliath. Two guys, you couldn't ask for two more different looking people to step into a ring. Different styles, different approaches. This is one of those wild card matches that really kind of could have gone either way. And that's what I was shooting for.
A thing that I at least appreciated about this is, and you mentioned the Amarillo, Texas, and I don't know if it was your decision, if it happened subconsciously, if it's always been a pro wrestling thing. We're the city of Albuquerque. Why is our arch nemesis Amarillo? Like, what did Amarillo specifically do to where every, like, quote unquote hated individual that comes to town, we're billing from Amarillo? Like, what is the connection between the two? What relatively seem to be like sister cities?
It's weird, and that relationship has existed pretty much my entire career. When I used to work in Amarillo on a pretty regular basis, we would actually announce that I was from somewhere in Amarillo, just to make sure I didn't lose my crowd response. But
Yeah.
it was I think the opening of this broadcast, they shot the crowd and there was signs already. Texas sucks, and um, I thought that was pretty funny.
My favorite sign of the night, which we need to create like an award for or something at some point, which we will. We'll have Adam Merrick announce it and give it out to really incentivize fans coming out. But it was best thing about Amarillo is Highway 40 westbound, and I could not be laughing harder like in the entirety of this thing. So yeah, good little banger match here, and then this puts us just one away. Well, you're going to see a finish here. This is okay. So this is what I'm into here, because to me, the false finish is such an important part of like a pro wrestling match. And the idea of like, really, building down the hopes of your fan base. And then obviously for Lau to come back, it was, I don't know, just good job, good writing, good everything overall. Too many A shots, maybe me and Chris, that's what the fans will say. And then we come back for, here's our fourth match of the night. And this is re-entering Veronica Vega, and I think she made 4 appearances on the night. Like, if not you, Hobo Hank, maybe Veronica, the star of the show.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm saying. And every time she was out there, the crowd reacted to her, and she was just the perfect.
So, Joe, your microphone's going in and out for a second. Let me see if I can do something to fix that real quick. You got a little, maybe do a plug and unplug if you can, because it got loose for a second. But if you can come back. But yeah, the idea on this thing is, Veronica Vega comes out, and we didn't have any tag team matches, we didn't have anything of that nature. So for her to come out and be like an extra presence while out in a match, so the audience has like different viewpoints and what to look at. And Joe, welcome back. Thank you. Yeah, talk a little bit about how standout she was all night long.
She was fantastic. Again, MVP of the night, in my opinion. She tied it all together. She kept that storyline, the continuity between it. She was an immediate read for the crowd. I mean, once they saw her come out with whoever, they knew that they were to boo, right?
Villainous. Yeah,
she was just the icing on the cake, I guess, proverbial. So.
Yeah, insanely good job. And I don't know if this is thought about by you, but I think it was appreciated by the fan base in that in attendance, and obviously the TV audiences responded well. But wrestling's not just for the boys. We're fully inclusive here at Duke City Championship Wrestling, and we'll bring in anyone who's got a world talent. And Veronica Vega is not just at that level, but she's at that level to identify other talent too. So yeah, just really good booking there, my man.
Thank you very much. I was so pleased that she was available, and happy to have her.
So we're halfway through our match here, and this is going to end up becoming a storyline later in the night. But this is the before intermission. We got our fourth match of the night. We want people excited to get up and do what? Buy concessions and have a drink and maybe check out the merchandise stand. But we want people excited about getting back in their seats because the action's been so good. Did this set the plate for the intermission the way that you thought it would?
Yes. So this match was super important to me as far as putting this show together. So Thunder, a good friend who's been in this business for almost as long as I have, so 25 years in the ring. Also a hometown favorite, well known in Albuquerque, versus El Diablo Blanco. So I knew Blanco would be a perfect foe. Again, having Veronica out there, and then Thunder, I knew he's always gonna put on a fantastic match. He's always gonna get the crowd behind him. And look at him right there, just getting them pumped up. I knew that this match would leave everybody on a really high note to go into intermission. And by design, I did ask him after the match is over, climb that barricade and get over to the merchandise stand. So let's pull some
Yeah.
people over that way and let them check out our t-shirts, let them meet you, much as we did at the end of the show with the four of us.
Well, and you were talking a lot about like what it takes to put on a show. We were laughing a little bit about the American flag going up, and we had some production notes here. We go inside baseball. In attendance at the historic El Rey, this place was lit beautifully. It doesn't necessarily translate to the TV as well as we thought it would, right? So obviously we're going to make some improvements there. We're going to do some stuff, but Thunder was crucial in setting up for this event. Like there are guys that are just contributing, not just on quote unquote game night Thursday night. There were guys starting as early as Monday helping you and I and the Historic El Rey Theater and everyone involved build a ring and set up chairs and everything you see. That's not there all the time. That's an effort put in by not just the guys performing, but the guys working.
Absolutely. I'm glad you pointed that out, Fred. So Monday night, Mosh Pit Mike, Thunder, everybody from Albuquerque, Gatto and Jerry and Tony, everybody was pitching in, bringing the ring, transporting all this equipment and chairs and setting up. And it is a challenge. The first time you set up for an event in a certain venue, it's a huge challenge. We
a lot of problem solving.
A lot of problem. Yeah, it's constant because you think you know where things are going to go and what the dimensions are and how it's going to fit. And there's always little tweaks that have to be made and changes that have to be done on the fly. So, we had our tools out and, trips to Home Depot, you name it, just to make it work. And we learned a lot. And so the next show will go that much easier, that much smoother.
Well, and those who are in attendance, I think they're aware, but maybe those that are watching us online for the first time, or maybe after this, they're excited to go back and watch the episode. Not just the ring is like the one thing that you had familiarity with before the start of this, like the chairs and the barricades brought to us by friend of the show friend of Duke City Championship Wrestling, Rio Rancho Vincer. That's the first time you've been exposed to that. Also, we built like all those backdrops that are hanging in the back. We built the merchandise stand. We built everything for the first time it had ever been built. So if we're missing a bolt, or if we're missing, or we need more duct tape, like I'm just obviously naming things off the top of my head, but extension cords aren't always long enough. I think the mats for the show, the floor mats came in that morning. Like that's how tight we were cutting it on some of this stuff. So yeah, the problem solving and the gumption and the go now, I was just so very impressed by your entirety, by the entire roster. I just could not have been more of a positive vibe about those guys.
And and it goes back to experience, Fred. These guys have been on a lot of these types of shows. Maybe not quite this magnitude. Some have, some haven't, but they're used to that. They're used to the problem solving and just kind of turning random areas and spaces into as much of a venue as we can muster.
So talk to me about the idea here between match 5 the night. Everyone has taken a 15-minute intermission in real time. Obviously here on the broadcast, it's moments. But we're bringing the crowd back to their seats. We're bringing them back into action. What is the goal of the first match after intermission?
To re-engage, everyone. So we got Monster 9 here in the ring, and he's always a crowd favorite, similar to Happy the Clown. He has a really unique look, a unique character. And again, I know people would just get it quickly. And, putting him with Vile, is this mysterious magician. I felt like seeing these two enter the ring right after intermission would make people rush back to their seats and just get right back into the action. They wanted to see what was happening.
Yeah, there's obviously a little bit of a vaudevillian versus horror. There's definitely two different genres here. I thought it was incredibly positive. And at this point, personally, on the broadcast, I felt like Chris Burnett and I had really found a groove. Obviously, we got show notes. We have all these things in front of us and a lot of information. Not only are we absorbing, not necessarily for the first time, but we've only had for a limited time to absorb. We're then trying to translate that organically into the storytelling, right? So right here, Joe, is where I felt like I was striding. I felt like the personality that I'm so famed for having, through my talk show or whatever, I'm able to translate into this broadcast. And I went from kind of being in awe of the spectacle for the course of this match, the next one, and the one that follows, really up until your match. And we'll talk about that when we get there. But this to me is where I felt like Duke City Championship Wrestling was the product we thought it was going to be. And I was past surprised. I was in proud at that moment.
Oh yeah, by this time in the show, I was in cruise control. I was just letting things, go through the course. And I just want to point something out, Fred. I don't know, a lot of people think they know how pro wrestling works or how we put matches together, this and that. So, to be 100% transparent, did I decide who these matches were going to be? Yes. And did I decide who was going to win or lose? And a rough time frame? Absolutely. I may even had some input as far as the way the match ended. But what you see out of the performers is 100% them. They're the ones choosing what moves to do and when and what stories to tell and how to blend it all together. So, if you liked what you saw, it's kudos to these guys. They're the ones doing it.
And then interesting, with the production in the back, you're going to see a side Russian leg sweep here, which is a thing I want to make sure we reference because it comes back into play later in the night. As the boys are in the back and they're watching the stream that we have in the back, is there a conversation about like, hey, this moveset is done well tonight, or hey, this has already been done, don't do it? Is there a dialogue between individuals of like, hey, maybe stay away from this approach so that we can utilize it later? Do they have those kind of conversations?
In some cases. So if there's something that's really, special in a match, that's really being highlighted, then yeah, they may warn one another and let them know, hey, I'm gonna do a pile driver, and if we could try not to do that in other matches, it'll just make it that much more special. But sometimes we don't watch all the matches. I was busy running around backstage. I didn't get to see everything as it happened. I will say, what was interesting about this show is a lot of times, wrestlers don't pay any attention to what's going on in the ring. We had a monitor set up behind the stage where we could actually see what was happening. And there were more wrestlers glued to that monitor for this event than I've seen in most others.
Oh, cool. How cool. Yeah. Here's another rejoin here. We'll talk about coming out of commercial break, obviously, because we're on Comcast Channel 26 locally, which is a really cool broadcast opportunity. If you have a Comcast subscription in the state of New Mexico, our program is brought to you on Saturday afternoons for free, which is just incredible to me. The number of households that we reach, the number of households that we reach, Joe, was explained to me by Steve Davis, owner of ProView Networks, that it's upwards of 1 million households, which is just an unreal number, my man. Like hard to even imagine. So we're 3 away here from you, which is kind of great. And talking again about that rejoin. The idea is coming back from commercials now. What we're going to do is we're going to have what? We're going to have partners of the program. We're going to have sponsors. That's always an opportunity too. So if you're a fan of Duke City Championship Wrestling, reach out to us, DukeCityChampionshipWrestling.com. We have a contact us link right there. All of our social media outlets, wherever you're watching us right now, send us a thing. We will find it. I promise you. But there's ways to be involved, not just monetarily. There's a lot of ways. I thought this might have been the brilliance of the night outside of the main event with Phoenix. Phoenix comes out and he immediately, in what you and I believe would describe Albuquerque to be, a pretty blue-leaning, progressive, liberal community, he brings the Trump 2024, and that doesn't have creases in it. He's used that many a time. I just thought this was a tremendous. He's the bad guy, and he's telling you without saying a word.
So the old school wrestler in me, who's been in this business for 100 years, and was brought up in the world of kayfabe. I hate to tell this story, but that's what the nature of this show is all about. So that flag actually belongs to Chris Watson, who is Phoenix's opponent for this match.
Oh, okay.
And when I booked these guys, I wasn't specific as to who I wanted to wrestle whom and what role they would play. But in my mind, from the get-go, I had Chris Watson in mind as the face, and I had Phoenix in mind as the heel, for reasons that will make more sense hopefully in the coming months. And so backstage as they're talking over what they're going to do, Chris offered up the flag to Phoenix. So that could have gone either way, right? But it's kind of an interesting backstage story of how that happened.
Chris Watson, this is the first time I had met Chris. I knew he was on the card. You had spoke highly of him. I had not interacted with him until the night of the show. And nicest guy I could have possibly met. Maybe the nicest guy. Just had stories about the industry. Obviously knew the business very well. Kind is the thing I yearn for in people, and he had kindness, and I'm excited for his future involvement with the promotion. Looked the part, performed well, and he was saying to me that he had extensive opportunity in Mexico. And you know what I heard immediately when he was telling me that, Joe, was I'm sad there hadn't been more opportunity in New Mexico until this point. Because like my man deserved a showcase for a long time, because I thought he put on a performance.
Agreed. Both of these guys did. Phoenix has a great look. I think he's a great heel. I've wrestled him numerous times in Texas. And one of the reasons I wanted to position him as a heel here is because I feel like down the line, there might be reason for he and I to cross paths. So Chris Watson, on the other hand, from what I understand, he actually lived in Albuquerque at one point. I think he played for the Isotopes or was affiliated with them. So he has some roots to Albuquerque, and he's been talking to me for years about wanting to come out here to work. This was the first opportunity we've had to give him that. So it was cool to give him that stage to kind of.
Here's a little inside baseball too. Speaking of baseball, Chris Watson is running around backstage before the program. I'm sure he's going to text me about this. He's running around backstage and he's just looking for a drawstring because he ripped the drawstring on his pants like moments before the match. And and I'm paraphrasing obviously, but he's like, "Can I go in sweats or whatever?" And you're like, "Figure it out." like fix your pants. So, and I don't know what remedy he ended up coming up with, but it's so funny to me because these guys, they're not just professional wrestlers, they're tailors too. So there was a little bit of production to get this thing on. And I know it seems minute, but when you're focused on going out there and performing, you just had to make sure his drawers stayed up.
Well, and Fred, again, that's a reason we need sponsors, and we need sponsors from all walks of life. If you run a greeting card store, office supplies or hardware store, we want to talk, man. We want to cross promote with you because the things it takes to put on an event like this, it would boggle your mind.
It boggled mine for a while. Like as you and I were creating, this is such a good shot right here. Not to put strong fixation on one thing, but the camera up, American flag in the background, you can kind of see the depth of the El Rey Theater because this is not a KC Hall. This is not a VFW. You're not going to hit your you're not going to hit your head on a drop ceiling here. This to me just kind of encapsulates the night. This to me is really special.
It is. Yeah.
And like I didn't mean to cut you off, Joe, but yeah, as you were saying, it does. It takes all types of partners and all sorts, and we got a bunch of them coming in, so we're excited to make those announcements when they come. Good false finish right here. I'm just going to go to the end of this one, and too far, and I apologize. But as this one starts wrapping up, the crowd I thought would maybe be like a fizzling out at this point. I think we were about 45 minutes away from the end of the night, and I knew how much remained, and I was so very impressed. Good finish here, by the way, my man. I was so very impressed by how the crowd, and you can see people, pumping their fist or outraged at the finish. I was so impressed with the crowd and how well they maintained that energy from bell one to the final bell.
I was too, at the end of the night when you think they'd be tired, you're going to see in a few minutes, they were not. No. And I love that finish. That's old school wrestling, right? The heel with the feet on the ropes. So,
and the replay work here, talking strictly about TV, is Chris and I are breaking this thing down in the air, and not to break down any fourth walls or anything, but it's, I'm telling you how he didn't cheat, and Chris is telling you how he did, and to have that conversation as he's obviously blatantly cheating on the broadcast is just beautiful storytelling. This whole thing to me, man, is, and I know we're trying to keep it under an hour, but this whole thing to me is just so Shakespearean. It's comedy and it's drama and it's athleticism and it's all the things that are associated with that in a 360 field degree of eyes and sound and lights. And I don't know if I have seen better in-person theater than what we put on June the 25th at the historic El Rey Theater. It was just incredibly special to me.
Yeah, when I was being brought up in the business, all those years ago, a few of the first promoters that I worked with, that I was lucky enough to have them, bestow their wisdom upon me, because I was a curious kid. I would ask a lot of questions, even at 15, 16 years old. And I remember some of the greats telling me that, promoting a good wrestling show is a lot like putting on a circus. And you want to sprinkle a little bit of everything in there for everyone. You got to have a juggler and an acrobat and a fire eater and all that. And so the more diverse of a performance you can put on it, the more you're going to hopefully help everyone enjoy it.
Yeah, no, spot on, just spot on. The way the ring's laid out here, Joe. So we obviously have it backed right up to the stage, and that's where most of the performances are at the night. And I was trying to pause it there for a moment to see. We had put down this, what do they call, like foot stages? Where they're like 12 inches stages or whatever. And this was the grounding to it, but it created just like a really good plank to the stage, and that was your idea, from the stage to the ring. And I thought that was executed really well too, because it looks so very clean. And moving forward, maybe we make it red, or maybe we put a sponsor on, or do something clever. But the idea was, there was just, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get the verbiage right on this. There was a lot of different dimensions all the time. There's the forefront of the ring, and then there was like the collapse of the audience. And even if it's on the floor, there was depth. And I thought that was something from our production that stood really special versus maybe some of the other stuff I've seen that I'm not necessarily trying to downplay. I mean, everyone does their own thing, like specially and individually, but we have 5, 6, 7 different levels of depth here on our broadcast. And that keeps you tuned in. That's a horizontal eye.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look, I love the crowd sitting on the stage. Not only, from a live crowd perspective, imagine buying those seats and getting to watch an event that up close and personal. That's cool. But then when you watch it on the broadcast, it adds height, right? You see the crowd up, almost sitting in the ring, and then we've got all of our front row and ringside folks. But as the crowd pans the other direction, behind you and Mr. Chris Burnett, you can see we've got the crowd going up into the bar area and then up in the mezzanine bar area. So there's with these 25-foot ceilings in the historic El Rey Theater, there's dimension everywhere, and I found it just had such a cool look. It came out perfect.
Yeah, I'm not one to romanticize a vision beforehand. I'm very muted. It's almost, I hear sound through styrofoam. I feel like I see visions through blurred glasses. And from how even muted I felt like I was, and what we were going to be able to do, I was 100 times blown away. I was 100 times blown with even those little aspects that you just described. It was incredible to me to watch all these pieces come together in a puzzle that we designed and cut and made. I told you immediately after the show, I'll tell you right now, I'll tell you your broadcast we've ever done, how proud I was of you and how appreciative I am of you to allow me to ride your coattails a little bit. And I thanked you for the house every time. But you knew the whole time. Like, I pulled the trigger on some stuff, but you aimed the gun every time. And I just was very impressed. I was very impressed with how it looked visually. I was very impressed with how it looked auditorially. And I was very impressed with the performers in the ring.
Well, I appreciate that, Fred. I'm going to say, though, do not downplay the roles and responsibilities of you and Chris Burnett and Aaron Burnett. I mean, Aaron Burnett he's a problem solver, and
yeah.
As things came up throughout the months leading up to this, he was just knocking them down without problem. You've gotten us on every form of media that there is in Albuquerque. We've been on every news channel, the Albuquerque Journal, the radio after radio, podcast after podcast. This content right now that we're creating, this is your brainchild, and then Chris Burnett has just been instrumental in bringing it all to the people and keeping it live and keeping topic of conversation. And so this is a partnership, man. And like we said before, I don't think there's 4 better guys to put this thing together.
Well, I tell you what, it's going to end up becoming quickly is the core four or whatever name we're going to go with here, and those that are going to be around. So if there's pillars to this home, already we're going to introduce new talent at the next event. We're going to introduce new guys to not just be seen in the ring, but guys to help produce. And I know we're going to add a third voice to the broadcast, which we're really excited about. So we're going to do that, and there's just going to be just a world of advancement every single week. And then there's the opposite side of it too. So let's say maybe you're not the biggest fan of me professionally. Let's say maybe people don't think that Hobo Hank is the greatest wrestler in the world. There's incentive to tune into this thing too, because there's hey, where's critique coming from? Because we want to hear it. We want to know what has worked really well for you and what has been successful. Also, we want to hear what went really poorly. Like, we want to hear the stuff from everyone in it. And you and I gave it to each other as well. We know it's perfect, but this night for a first time, I thought was as close to as perfect as we could get, specifically because I don't know anything, man.
I agree. It did go as well as it possibly could have. And yes, we have our notes. We have things to improve upon, and we'll get there. Speaking of perfect, I don't think we spoke to this match here, but this was another huge moment. So this is the semi-main event, basically. It's the match right before the main event. These guys were perfect. So Mosh Pit Mike, again, he's been in the business for well over 20 years. I think he's 23 years in. And Turbo Tony is a fantastic heel. He is.
Oh yeah.
He's just classic. And Mosh is going to give you a good match every night of the week. So I thought these guys were exactly what this point of the night needed.
Well, and what's fun about Turbo Tony is Turbo Tony looks face. Like, he's got the build. Like physically, he's a handsome guy. He's in good shape. He wears the right colors. He's a guy that you think when he comes out, you're going to cheer for and celebrate. And then he gives you every reason in the world to not do that. And I impressed, and then back in the house again, we're cleaning up after the event. What are we doing? We're packing up merchandise, and we're, and inside, we sold some t-shirts. We made a lot of progress. We did really good, but the stuff, it's got to go to the truck. It's got to leave the building. And he's there. He's helping us till the very end. And, he doesn't make extra bucks for that. Like, he's just a really good dude. And that to me is, I don't know, like a special thing that meant a lot to me. And we'll talk about it as we advance here to the main event. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the audio on just a little bit for this thing, because we've been on mute this whole time. But I was so incredibly taken away at this point. And we cut your match off, and it's also available on the YouTube channel by itself. If anyone wants to see fully the main event, it's about 28 minutes long. But you, Joe, coming out here and celebrating, not to skip past Charlie and Veronica because they caught the rear end of it, but as your music hit, talk to me, and I haven't pressed play yet. Talk to me as you're behind the quote-unquote gorilla here. Talk to me as you're about to jerk the curtain, like what your emotion is, my man. Talk to me mentally where you're at. Was it a long moment for you? Was it a short moment? Like, just take over for a minute.
Yeah, so I'm standing just off to the left of the curtain behind that banner, and I'm listening to the crowd. I can't see anybody back there, obviously, so it's all about what I can hear. And I'm listening to the reaction that Charlie and Veronica are getting, which I was super pleased how strong it was against them.
Yeah.
Every night when I go out to perform, regardless where it is and how long it's been, and I hope that the crowd is going to give me a good reception, but you never know. It could go one way, it could go another. So really, I'm just I've got my head down, I got my eyes closed, and I'm just kind of listening to see what it is that they do, and then just getting ready to go out there and do what I do.
You're talking a lot about, like, kind of all the influences and the environment that's around you, but I think maybe I'd like to ask even a little further, if you're willing. What's your inner dialogue? Like, do you have because I have, like, I host a talk show every day, and right before, I have an inner dialogue that is do good, like, be funny, I have for me, it's punch in. I'm like, punch in, Fred. Like, you're ready for this thing. The rest of the world doesn't matter. Do you have a mechanism like that?
I'm able to pretty quickly turn it on and turn it off, I think. And I don't. People ask me all the time, "Do you get nervous before you go wrestle?" I don't. I actually don't get nervous. I remind myself just to make myself aware of the danger of what I'm about to go do, and just to have a respect of the physicality that can go on. Um, More so, I kind of just remind myself that how thankful I am to be there and to do what I get to do. I mean,
Yeah.
I've watched this since I was a little child. I was 8 years old when I fell in love with wrestling, and I've always dreamed of being a wrestler at any level. I really never thought I would get to this level. So I'm just thankful for everybody who came and paid their money. And so I remind myself that these folks, they paid their hard-earned money to see me do this, and I owe them the experience that I basically promised with my previous performances. That's it.
And we're about to watch your intro in totality, and we're going to talk about that. But I think I just want to say one little bit before we jump into it. And I, similar to you, I started watching pro wrestling in 1990, and I'm 38 years old. So that's obviously the longest relationship I've ever had in my life. And I've had this thought in my head where I want to. You and I have been working on this for about 3 years, and I want to create a product here with Duke State Championship Wrestling that will exist for 10 years. And in 10 years, I want to hear people talk to me about 10 years ago. And I want to hear the stories that they have of bringing their kids. And I want to hear the stories that I had when I was growing up watching pro wrestling in my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. And I want them to talk about the performers. I want them to talk about the energy, and I want to talk about the emotion. And if some of those people recognize me to be a part of it, I'd love to hear that. And if they don't know a thing about it, and they're just telling me how much they enjoy it, it's just as valuable to me, my man. Like this is a special thing. I can't perform like you do in the ring. I can't jump and go and run but I can tell stories, and to be able to tell your story in this moment tonight, Joe, at or near one of my top professional moments of my career. And I've been to World Series and Super Bowls and WrestleManias, and I've been fortunate to do some cool things, but this is near the top for me, man. If not number one, it's just because I'm too humble to say it is. So I'm very appreciative of you here.
Well, it means a lot to me, brother. It really does. And and likewise, I've had literally hundreds of matches all over the Southwest, and I mean even up in Detroit, and I've performed in front of the Albuquerque crowd before. And I said it. This one was different. It really was. I've wrestled big name wrestlers before, which comes with a whole different level of pressure and expectation. But this reception that this crowd gave me was it was mind blowing. And the one thing I wish that this broadcast would have captured a little bit more was just the sheer volume of the room.
Yeah,
I mean, you can hear
so
the crowd.
loud.
It was deafening. Inside the ring, it was literally deafening. Kyle, the referee, came up to talk to me, and I just couldn't hear him. So hopefully in some future broadcasts, we can mic the crowd a little bit better so you can feel the energy within the L-way, and maybe light them up a little bit. I would love to have some lights on the crowd here where you can see the looks on their faces. And I mean, this guy's happy, obviously, but
he's handing you a beer.
Well, that beer, there wasn't a lot left in that beer. That's why he's happy. But no, I mean, this was one of the greatest moments of my entire career, hands down.
And Chris Burnett and I are on the broadcast, and the crowd's just losing it for you. Oh, that's the best point. Oh my God, dude! Like it's as cool of a moment as I've ever been a part of. And so Chris Burnett's saying something, and the angle is I hate Chris on the broadcast, whatever, right? So it's all night long I've done my best to not railroad him all night long, and then I'm like Chris, just shut up. Like it's like the camera work here is very special.
Yeah, this is awesome. I would love maybe in future broadcasts, I would love to get one of those guys to step into the ring with me and just kind of shoot over my shoulder so you can see.
Yeah.
Smart. If you look at the direction, you can see right here the direction I'm facing. There's a sea of people that go into the bar, but if you look up in the mezzanine, there's an entire row of people hanging over the mezzanine, and they've got signs, and they're as riled up as anybody on the floor there. So the energy was coming from the roof. It was incredible. And I
Sounds
love those
special.
stage seats. The stage seats are awesome.
Look at you right here. You're not Hobo Hank in this moment.
No, no, that's right there. That is not something I would normally do, but they were just so loud. You know, let's let's blow the roof off the place, and um, it felt cool to be back.
You and I we talk all the time. We're friends. We're legitimate friends. So we're talking over the weekend. I'm at what concert was I at? I was at Toad the Wet Sprocket and Marcy's Playground. So you're texting me and you're out of town working. We both have day jobs. And I find Nitty Gritty Band is coming to town. And what we're gonna cut this off and send it to them and see if me and you can't get some like VIP access to Nitty Gritty Band coming to town. Because
that picture has to happen. I mean, there's got to be a picture of us with the Nitty Gritty there, man. I've been using their song. So a little inside wrestling fun fact. So the guy who gave me that song, I'd been Hobo Hank for a couple years by then. But the person who actually suggested I use that song moving forward was the late great Chris Youngblood, one of the Ricky Romero's sons. So I have him to thank for that one.
Give his name one more time. You might have cut out just a little bit there.
Oh, sorry. So Chris Youngblood, one of the Youngblood brothers, used to tag with Mark Youngblood. He was the one that suggested that song.
Physically, right here, obviously, this is as old as you've ever been in professional wrestling. We're both as old as we've ever been right now in our lives. When you look at it from what you remember seeing 27 years ago when you started, does it look different to you? Do you see it differently than you saw it as a kid? As you're getting wrenched here in the shoulder, like what is that? Is it just 100th time it's ever, or I guess 1,000th time it's ever happened to you? Does it feel different as you're seeing it?
Well, obviously I was a little better shape 27 years ago.
Oh, you know.
I weighed a lot less, but I felt good, man. I mean, everything I did in that ring that night, it just felt good. I could have gone another 15, 20 minutes easy.
Yeah.
With the energy in the room and the crowd, and you got somebody good to work with, like Charlie, and physically, I felt fantastic. And if anything, I just see I see things I've learned along the way to make it easier to do what I got to do in there. So
we're going to fast forward just a little bit, and this is a pivotal part of the night. How long have you been doing this move?
I probably at least 15 years. The pit stop, yeah. Normally I'll follow it up with a bite to the forehead, but for Miss Veronica, it's just a pit.
What's the conversation beforehand with Veronica Vega? Is it hey, are you willing to take this quote unquote bump? Do you get permissions first? Do you tell people you're going to do it? There's a famous story from years ago where Scott Hall would say, famously of the Outsiders, the Razor Ramon, he would say guys would ask him not to throw the toothpick in their face. This seems like it's kind of on the same level.
Yeah, there's, out of respect, if you're going to do something a little off color like that, or, a lot of times you'll see me, I'll spit on people, right? I spit on Charlie at the beginning of the match, and I spit the pizza, or I'll spit a drink. So I usually try to run those things by people. Luckily, poor Miss Veronica, that's not the first time she's had her face in the Hobo Hank's armpit. So I think the second she walked in the venue, we hugged, and I said, guess what we're doing tonight? And she goes, I'm getting the armpit. And I said, of course, the crowd's going to love it.
I interacted with some fans, I guess over the weekend. And as I was interacting, they were sitting in that high corner there on the stage. And they were saying that Veronica Vega was just ribbing them like the whole night. And it's like that constant involvement I was really appreciative of. I thought this was a good bit here too.
Yeah, she's over there choking me out, kind of getting some revenge for the pit stop, and just reminding everybody that she's a factor in this thing. She could be the difference between me winning or losing this match.
Also, I don't know if you heard the commentary there, but for me, I'm talking about how you're a fool because you won't just let her lay a smoocher on you, which is the way of the story I'm trying to tell. Chris Burnett, as he's sitting next to me, he's like, "You're an idiot." I'm like what? What do you do? All I got is the material in front of me.
I was impressed, Fred, with the way that you were able to kind of walk the line between pervy and and just not pervy. It was very you guys, the characters that you both fell into in commentary, I thought were fantastic. Perfect.
Yeah, what a good little banger of a night. We're gonna fast forward here just a little bit, and I guess we're almost there when Help comes out. So, all right, so here's where the plywood comes out, and I really like this aspect because we hadn't done anything really outside of the ring all night. Kind of saved it for the big finish. I think the call on it is very good to talk again about me and Chris Burnett. I think the story's translated well. As you guys are kind of laying this out, what's the thought process? Like, what is this is going to work because what?
Okay, so a couple things about basically this whole end of this match. So number one, the plywood, I thought of that weeks ahead. That was one of the first elements of the match that I knew that I wanted to get in because knowing that the El Rey was huge, I knew that the sound from that was going to resonate and it would just leave a mark of a memorable moment for the crowd to go home with. We had talked extensively about the fact that we weren't going to have blood and certain weapons and all that. So this was a way to kind of bring a little bit of hardcore wrestling, something a little outside the box. And so I just knew if we did it right, that this would be the moment of the night. Especially if we were to tease it, kind of what we're seeing here is where,
right, perfect. Yeah,
it looks like he's going to get me, he doesn't. And then, we kind of tiptoe around it for a minute. So,
hey, also, we need to tape those mats down.
Yeah, that was an
we
error.
learned.
That's fine. It's a wood floor. We're good.
So, well, and you and I early on in this process, we did have those conversations where it's like, hey, who's this product for? And the product I grew up watching didn't have blood. The product I grew up watching didn't have. I think in the industry, the terminology is color. We didn't have color, and so I personally really didn't want it. I don't think it's a part of good storytelling. I think good storytelling is tiptoeing around that, like you mentioned. And with that said, whenever you brought up the plyboard, it wasn't even like we talked about permissions. You were said, hey, this is how we're going to do it, and we're going to do it really well. And I'm in. The trust is there. We're going to do that thing. And I just thought that was one of like many of the examples we had of figuring out how to not just work together, but work together like sympathetically. Like I was really impressed with how quickly you and I had chemistry on a vision.
Yeah, I agree. Just like when you told me last week, let's get on this real show. This will be great. I'm not going to question that. I know you have a vision, and I know it's going to work. So, I could not be happier with this spot right here. I love the replay of it. I love the sound of it, and the way we did it, where we teased everybody. If you look at the crowd, you can see how many cell phones are out. Like they're waiting for it. They know it's about to happen, and I have seen so many angles and shots and versions of that particular moment over this week. It's incredible. I've probably seen 40 different takes of that.
I don't at all hate the plywood. Why would? I thought that was a good line from me. It was a handful of things I had made notes on before that I did not. That was in the moment. I was very satisfied with that. All the replays are so good. Hear how lifeless you become at the end, right? To where it's your legs, right? So you're full extension. You got one propped against the ring. You got one stuck on plywood. And then the little inside baseball. The communication here is El Diablo coming over, Veronica Vega coming over, you guys being fine, and our referee is staying in the ring, like making sure the match is moving on. And I like all the trust. I appreciate it professionally, and I know the crowd was in support of you guys getting back to action after that big bump.
Yeah, and so again, putting the show together, I had to figure out how to finish the night, right? And I didn't necessarily want to be the guy who books the shows, who puts himself in the main event, who makes himself win. That's not really my style. I'm more of an old school booker mentality. I actually wanted to lose this match. And what I was going to do, so that little spot there where Veronica had my foot, originally I was going to have Charlie make the count in the ring, and I was not. I was going to have her hold my foot and cost me the match and lose by disqualification. So I debated on that fact for probably a week. Um, Talked to some people who I'm close with, and just kind of bounce some ideas around. I really like the spot, but it was so important, I think, to have everybody leave the room happy.
Yeah.
Kind of that Hulk Hogan moment or whatever for WrestleMania thing. So I opted to go ahead and get the win, but I didn't want to get a clean win, because if I did, there's nothing left for Charlie and I to do in the future. So
Well, you and I have had a lot of conversations about this because I feel the opposite way of you. I feel that I want the end of my night to be my celebrated hero, and I want to, as as a kid coming back, not spend the next, month. And good decision here, Joe. Just super good decision. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to me how you and I kind of develop that out over the course of this next year, and exactly what stories to tell, and specifically how to utilize Hobo Hank, because he's got a lot of fans, my man.
He does, and I'm always, so it's hard because I have to. So I don't think of Hobo. I don't think of myself as Hobo Hank. I know that sounds really
Right.
bizarre, but Hobo Hank to me is a character. He's a wrestler. I try to take myself out of the situation. I try to just listen to the people, and so if the people are so completely behind him, I can't really I can't really book around that for my own self. I don't know how to a better
Right.
way to say that. So sometimes I have to be pushed into making those kind of calls, but I love the way we finished here because we were able to get 8 people really with Veronica. We have 8 people involved in this finish. So yeah, we left them with a feel good moment. All the good guys are standing side by side, but we just achieved a lot. And from a storytelling element, we've got now the crowd is well aware that me and Thunder, Mosh Pit Mike, Chris Watson, we're all buddies. We've got each other's back. We've also established the fact that Phoenix is also part of, Lamigra's little faction they've got going there. And I could spin this 100 different ways now. So
Yeah.
who's to say the next event? It could be a tag team match. There could be a 4-on-4. It could be 4 different one-on-ones. It's just there's endless ways to go, and that's what I wanted to do.
Production wise, you can see over here on the left hand side of the broadcast screen, there's a set of stairs that go up to the stage for the talent. And I thought we had set that up really well too, as guys are entering and exiting, but not having to necessarily pass through the action. And I thought that was a really good decision by you to introduce characters, remove characters, because it was almost like a stage side out. And then, to access the seating, there was a fan entrance, which I thought was just done really well by the venue. So, yeah, aesthetically, this is such a good shot here. Aesthetically, just as good as the night could be. And you see me there having to snap back in as the camera got to me a second earlier than I thought it would. Yeah, but night one was in the books at this point, my man.
Yeah, I remember. So that last shot where we're standing there and kind of taking our accolades and all that, I've got a couple of thoughts in my mind. And number one, I wanted to. I couldn't wait to get out of the ring and get some feedback from a couple people that I'm close to. Like my girlfriend, my daughter. I wanted to hear what their thoughts were. But I could not wait to hear what you and Chris and Aaron all had to say about the night. Aaron in particular, I guess, for some reason, because I know that Aaron's not the rabid, diehard long-term wrestling fan that the three of us are. And he did a lot of work to bring this event to life. And I just, for some reason, I wanted to kind of hear get his approval. So I was excited to get to talk to him after the crowd started to dwindle a little bit. I mean, I almost wish that was on the broadcast. We exited over the barricade and we stood by the merchandise stand. I was there for, I don't know how long, an hour probably.
Had to be an hour.
It was forever. And people bringing me shirts and things to sign and pieces of plywood to sign and take pictures. And the reception was amazing.
That plywood was fun. It was broken into kind of a lot of pieces, and kind of a lot of people were taking them, and they were, you signed a bunch, I signed a bunch. There was just a really fun unique energy. And I think we talked about this on Real Show One. Some of the things that jumped to the top, I didn't forecast. And I think people's yearning to take home a piece of the plyboard from night one was one of those things. Just kind of a cool standout one. I think you and I talked a little bit off air, but I'll put this on the program right now. A thing that happened to me, because you were talking about going to see your daughter and your lady, and they ran the merchandise booth all night. You know, this is just a group of individuals trying to figure this thing out, and we're not handing money to everyone we can. We're doing our best to incorporate family into this. And at the end of the night, after, you know, everyone had kind of left and you have an adrenaline, you know, I had like a sad moment. I had like because I'm not from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I've been in Albuquerque about 6 years. And I put you in the list, Joe. You're the guy. Like Aaron Burnett, tremendous. He will be. Chris Burnett, tremendous. He will be. Really, it's just me and you, though, from the amount of time and work we put into this. And I had a moment of sadness that my people, like the people who love me, weren't there for this thing that I was so very proud of. And it was kind of a cathartic, like end of the night energy. And I think I walked over you kind of after the crowd had left, and I say it every time I said, but you know, I thanked you for the house, because the house was only, in my opinion, was substantially enhanced because you were there. And you and I had a cool little moment, and I was happy to tell you how much I loved you, and I was happy to tell you how much I appreciated you, and I was happy to tell you how proud I was. And yeah, that was the exclamation point to my night.
Yeah, it felt good, you know, to get the four of us together, even separately that night, just to get that reassurance, because you know, I hoped it would all come together. I hoped that everybody would approve of all the, you know, the wrestlers on the card, the booking decisions, everything, but you just don't know. And you know, what you experience there, Fred, it's kind of an interesting thing. The pro wrestlers, people don't think about this. When you travel, a lot of times you're on the road, you go wrestle a match, and you're in the crowd, and you're like the life of the party. You're in the middle of all these people who love you and admire you. That ends at some point. It ends, and you have to go back to your car or your hotel or whatever. It is the weirdest, loneliest feeling in the world to leave a room that feels like that and go back to nothing. It's very strange.
It's so. I've told a similar story to this online. I broadcast online on my radio show that I host, 2 Men on the Sports Animal here in town, CBS Sports affiliate. I broadcast Team USA versus Team Mexico in a arena soccer match one time. Landon Donovan is playing. This is like top tier stuff, and it's just a banger of a back and forth, really good night. And I leave the venue, and I broadcast this to thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands of people. And you get in your car and you turn the key, and it's just you and your dashboard lights. And it's brutal. It is brutal, man.
It's a weird duality. It really is.
Yeah.
But I always just remind myself how lucky are we to get to experience the high moment. And man, I'm excited. So unfortunately, I won't be at the press conference myself, but I know you guys will head that up and do a great job. And I cannot wait to unveil some of the news that's coming.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take one extra second because I didn't prepare this, but I'm gonna get something real quick, and then let me just airdrop it over to my Mac while I'm doing it. So it'll take me 1 second to pull this up, but the three of us had a little moment to where there's a ton of chaos. The three of us, the four of us, had a moment where there's just a ton of chaos around us. You know, there's the show's going on, and there's I don't know, 1,000,001 questions. Does that seem correct to you? There's 1,000,001 questions coming from people. And we all caught each other backstage maybe 10 minutes before the event, maybe. And I'm going to see if I can pull it up. Oh, you know what might be fun? I'm not going to do it this way. I'm at my radio station right now, right? And it's downtown Albuquerque. It's where I do my show every single day. And hanging up in my studio here is this photo, right? And I don't know how well this is going to go to the camera, but there was just like a moment for me where we were able to grab it, you know, and nothing had happened yet. I think the doors opened maybe 5 minutes later, right? And that was it. These are the guys. Like, this is the thing that built it. We we picked everyone here. We painted all these pictures, and now we're able to present them. And I think that little photo right there, and I gave you one when we had our post breakdown. I think that's a thing that I'm going to hold dear to my heart for a lot of years to come.
Agreed. I remember posing for the picture, but honestly, I had kind of, with everything that happened the week, I put it out of my mind. And when you surprised us with those at the meeting, I was really touched, man. And I appreciate that. That's going to hang right here in my office, right above, what I do every day. So, it was just a night of special moments. There was, so many things I'll never forget. The fans that I met after the fact, and the feedback that I got from them, and looks on their faces, and people had never seen me wrestle before that got to see me for the first time, and they were shocked by what they observed. I mean, just we can go on and on and on, and I can't wait for the next one. We're going to do this again.
As you mentioned, press conference on June the 13th. Obviously, if you're not available to be with us in person, we're going to make that announcement very soon on where that's going to be at. If you're not able to be with us in person, it'll be available on DukeCityChampionshipWrestling.com/TV. We will have a live stream of that event, so we're excited for that event. We'll be announcing all of our dates for the upcoming year, so that's going to be insanely fun. The El Rey Theater will be the place. It will absolutely be top tier. Episode 1 is in the books, my man. I'm in. I'm convinced. I'm bought in. I hope Duke City Championship Wrestling fans are bought in. Big thank you to live chat. This was our first live stream of this event, and we didn't necessarily get a chance to include everyone, but Mr. Happy right here is bringing the energy that this one needs. So thank you very much to he, just absolute banger of a performer. We're going to tie it up. Joe, anything we missed before we let it go?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all. But hopefully the fans realize that, we are all for working on this thing pretty much daily. We're making little strides every single day to make it better. At the next event, just for example, I'll have brand new merchandise I've never had before, ever.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be unveiling that night. I know DCCW will as well. We're just always looking for ways to make this thing better, bigger, more organized. And we promised you a monthly event starting in July, and you're going to get it.
Love that. Love everything about it. Joe Singer, Hobo Hank, thank you so very much, brother.
Likewise, my friend. I appreciate it.
Check out all the social media outlets, Duke City Championship Wrestling, everywhere you check out social media outlets. A lot of updates daily. We're doing polls. We're doing interactive. Obviously, we're putting out little clips. We're having fun with that. DukeCityChampionshipWrestling.com, your outlet for all things Duke City Championship Wrestling. And we're appreciative of you, the city of Albuquerque. For Hobo Hank, I'm Freddy Fame. Good job, everyone.